An inspiring life story is the account of a moment when an extraordinary person reveals the key that unlocked the door to their success. Among the many themes explored in these narratives are triumphs over adversity and the shattering of previously established boundaries. Not only can you as an individual motivate others to chase their dreams, but you can also provide them with the means they need to keep going strong once they reach their goals. Welcome to Deep Discussions Live and Learn podcast. I'm your host, Walter Williams. Thank you, as always, for supporting Deep Discussions' mission to encourage people to see their adversities as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. I apologize for the long hiatus. I think it's been about 6 or 7 months since I've been on here. A lot has taken place, a lot of good things. And, while I was on my hiatus, a lot of things taking place, some reflection, some, things that I've accomplished. But I'm proud that you stuck with me, decided to hit the play button and tune into the Live and Learn podcast. Hopefully I can be consistent with delivering you wisdom, knowledge, information, or whatever I can deliver to help you meet you where you are in your journey and hopefully help you move forward through whatever adversity you're either currently dealing with or will be dealing with in the future. So, as I like to start each episode with, I like to start you off with a poem. I haven't titled this one yet. I actually just wrote this one, so maybe you can help me come up with a title. You can suggest a title if you like. But this poem, I just thought of because it really touches on today's topic. So I'm going to read the poem to you. Your gifts are your gifts. Wait, no, they're not. Though your presence is warranted, they still have no spot. Gifts were for sharing. Presents, well, that's different. Gifts can be received by those in the far distance. Though well received in the beginning, they don't have to bear the same ending. Possessions are for appeal. Talent is for cause. When carrying a heavy load, recipients tend to pause. Be one with your passion. Be more with your purpose. If you're stingy with your art, its value becomes worthless. So I wrote this poem because I was inspired to share with you a message today about sometimes, how, you often hear people say, people are getting in their own way and people tend to defeat themselves and things of that nature. And I've been experiencing a similar battle with my platform. We all go through, at least entrepreneurs, artists, and people with their own platform or their own empire knows what it's like to have an idea, create something, and want others to, receive it the same way, if not better than you did when you were inspired to share it. I have been, as you all know, I've been on this journey with my platform for now, almost 12 years. I went through so many iterations, and I'm not going to keep spelling out every iteration that I went through. But recently, I was in the stage of saying, I'm going to be, the type of person that creates and delivers workshops, so I'm going to go to these conferences and share inspiration, share meaningful messages to individuals who are going through adversity, who needs help with things, whatever the case may be. And at that point, I said I was going to create these workshops for college students, for entry-level professionals and all this other stuff. I had these ideas, but it got to a point where, I always seem to get stuck at the execution phase. I'll keep, I can create content for days. I could come up with material and everything. But when it comes time to share the content, I get stuck. I can come up with ways that I could share it, but how I'm going to get to that stage, how I'm going to get in front of those people, I always struggle with that. And it got to a point where I finally got opportunities. I just threw myself out there. I applied for things that, sometimes I would, have imposter syndrome and be hesitant to apply for things. But I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead, throw my name in the hat, and just see where things go. And there were a few times I got rejected or got no response. And obviously in those moments, I, dealt with some discouragement, some, self-doubt and all of those things. But eventually I got an opportunity. I applied for this workforce development conference. I I delivered my first workshop there in 2024. It I mean, it didn't go the way that I wanted it to. But I felt like, okay, this was a learning experience. This was a learning opportunity. I saw someone in the front seat actually falling asleep. So when I saw that, obviously I became very discouraged. I had low self-esteem about myself as a presenter, as a content creator, all of that stuff. Cause I was like, dang, this woman actually fell asleep in my, in my workshop. So that lingered with me, and I decided to, recreate. And I found myself in this never ending cycle where I would just keep recreating my material and my content, because I finally got my big break to share it. I see somebody sleeping, and people are not answering questions because I'm trying to develop engagement, and people aren't responding. So I walked away feeling like, man, this ain't for me. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But I have this never ending, love and affection for my content. Like, I'm always so like enamored by the stuff that I created. So that confidence is what kept me going, along with the support of my wife not letting me give up. But I just knew that my content was so powerful. I just needed to figure out a way to fine tune it, to redirect it. And so I did. I, redesigned that workshop. I changed the name of it, moved the name another place. I did all of these different things, all of this finagling. And I went from having that one workshop to a year later having 6 workshops, because I felt like I compounded too much information into one workshop. So fast forward a year later, I get another opportunity at the same conference to deliver another workshop, but this time I delivered something different than the one I did the prior year. I felt that one was received a lot better. I got a lot more engagement because I think that I created more engaging exercises and gave people more opportunity to participate, share their thoughts and all of that stuff. And I think it was a more relatable topic. So I felt better, but I still felt like I could have done better. And I'll get to what I realized later what caused that after I finished sharing this other experience. So I had that workshop, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it was probably like maybe a 6.5 to a 7. The one the year before on the scale of 1 to 10 was probably like a 2 or a 3. So it got better. But, as content creators, as, entrepreneurs, leaders of, or creators and all of that stuff, we want 10s, if not at least 9 or 9.5. So I went back to the drawing board, did some things with my content and material, and said, okay, let's figure out another way to finagle it. And you'll see a theme here once I share this next story. So I joined the board early last year and got, the founder and the CEO of that organization appointed me to be on the board with them, and he had a training and a cohort that he was facilitating in, I believe it was October. It was either October or November, and he invited me down to share one of my workshops. So I'm excited. I'm like, okay, great. I get a chance to share the new and improved version of the workshop that I did the year before. I didn't share the same one that I did earlier that year because it didn't fit the audience. So I said, okay, I get a a fresh start, a fresh opportunity to reshare and repurpose this workshop. So I go share it, and I feel as though the people I was sharing it with, my topics and ideas kind of went over their head, and it was a little bit too much. I shared a lot of information with them, and I, again, doubted myself. I was like, why can't I seem to get this right? And throughout this whole entire journey, there have been, moments where I would take the material, take my books of workshops, my books of content, ideas, and all that stuff, take them off my desk, put them in the back storage room, and say, I'm never touching this stuff again. It's just not working. But there's that lingering, voice in my ear saying, you can't put this down now. This is your baby. This is your content. This is your material. You've worked so hard on this, along with my wife telling me that too. But and it's just become a part of my life, my everyday life. I had an opportunity to be forced to not spend as much time with it, because deep discussion is like, it's like pretty much a part of my everyday life. If I'm not working, if I'm not taking care of my wife and son, if I'm not bowling or something, I'm working on deep discussion stuff. And it's gotten so fixated in my life that it's hard for me to put it away or put it down. So I was forced to put it down when I was going through my journey of joining my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma. I just crossed in November. One of the proudest moments of my life. I definitely will say that was an unexpected journey, but I'll share that for another day, or save that for another day. But I was forced to put it down for a little bit as I was going through that journey. So I said, okay, being forced to spend some time away from it, I had a conversation with my wife, and I said, you know what? I keep going in this cycle of saying, on one hand, I struggle with execution. I keep struggling with, getting to that next step. I'll go back, redesign, recreate, repurpose my content and my information every single time. Have the utmost confidence, feel better then at that moment than I did, the prior moments when I first created it, and then be like, all right, I'm ready. Let's find, some supporters, some people I can bring this information to. And it got, so I kept going in that cycle. The opportunity will come. It didn't go the way I wanted it. Go back to square one, recreate, repurpose, refine. All right, I'm ready. Get another opportunity. And this opportunity could be months later. The opportunity don't go the way I want it. All right, go back, repurpose, recreate. Then it'll turn around to, I don't get opportunities for a while because I've applied and got, rejected or no response at all. And I will go back, repurpose, refine, and all that stuff. And I kept finding myself in this cycle. But the thing that never changed was the purpose, the inspiration, and the message of the content. I would just try to either enhance it and heighten up the information, or sometimes I was like, all right, let me scale it back a little bit. I'm saying too much. And I would just keep going in this never ending phase. So I said to my wife one day, I was like, you know what? I just need to get out of my head about feeling like I have to keep recreating and repurposing, and just be patient for when the time comes to share the material. And when those times come, trust that, it's an opportunity for me to share that material. So now here I am, still, open to opportunities. Opportunities have presented themselves. And I actually, during that time, because I was so excited about my content, kept like not necessarily monopolizing, but, trying to connect with people for an opportunity for me to share my inspiration, to share my my trainings and my material and all of that stuff. And I actually became involved in a part of another board because, I thought that was an opportunity for me to partner with someone and share my trainings and stuff. But right when I connected with that person, my journey to joining my fraternity happened, and you know, I kind of abandoned her. And it wasn't intentional. Things just kind of happened, in a way that I wasn't expecting. But although, and I'm thankful that I got another opportunity to reconnect, but I'm glad it happened that way because I had to take a step back and realize I don't want to force my platform or my information or my content into anyone's, platform or into anyone's space. I want it to, flow naturally and organically. So I had a few moments to reflect on that. And I kind of found myself yesterday kind of like going back in this phase where I'm like not trying to aggressively push my content and material because I've had opportunities to share it and things didn't go quite the way I wanted. So I'm trying to just like let it organically flow, connect with people, find out their purpose and their mission, and find ways that I can truly make my platform and my message connect and vibe with theirs, as opposed to just saying, oh yeah, this message will connect and work with anyone's platform. you know I find things that I really want to be a part of and help with, whether whether my platform is going to be a part of it or not. So, but back to the whole thing of like, me going in this circle and back to what the poem was saying. um, 2 points stuck out to me throughout this whole journey. The first point was, don't let your passion disrupt your purpose. Many people think that your passion and your purpose both, kind of like, are in sync. But sometimes we can become so passionate about something, and it's kind of like really kind of like these two points kind of like go hand in hand. We become so passionate about something that we want people to receive it the same way we received it when we got it. So what I mean by that is we become so passionate about something and so enamored by what it meant to us, what it did to our mental, our emotional, even in some cases our physical, that we want people to receive it the same way we got it when we felt it, when we experienced it, when we heard it. And that sometimes disrupts our purpose because we find ourselves trying to, present our thoughts and ideas in spaces that it does not belong. Or we find ourselves talking to people that probably are not the people that our message, idea, or thoughts were meant for. And that's what happens sometimes when your passion disrupts your purpose. Because if you have an idea and you're passionate about it, don't be so passionate to the point that you that in your pursuit you disrupt your purpose. We as creators, as entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and all of that stuff, sometimes, mistake what our purpose is when it comes to sharing these thoughts and ideas. And I'll say for me, what happened was I, at one point in time, thought my message was meant for college students, for young adults, entry level professionals, people in that same space that I was in when I received this passion, when the idea of this all came about. But what I realized is, one, I started this platform when I was 27. So that's almost 12 years ago. And 12 years ago, not only have I transformed and grown from what I was then, but so has my platform. My ideas has elevated, my content, my material, and the meaning of my platform has elevated and changed. Back then, I was trying to talk to people who were struggling with personal issues, who were stressed out about, who were stressed out about their love life, who were stressed out because they aren't able to be they aren't able to be happy with themselves and all of that stuff. And that's why I went through so many iterations, because I kept thinking that what I was quote unquote passionate about at that moment was fitting my purpose. But our passion and our purpose, you know, are both interchangeable. Now, I feel like me personally, and this this can be this can be a subjective thought, but I feel like our purpose is a little bit more concrete than our passion. And the reason I say that is because our passion can change based on what we've experienced, based on what we've seen, and based on things that we tried. So for me, when I first started this platform, like I said, I almost wanted to do sort of like a life coaching type thing, because at that point in time, people would rely on me for advice because they felt like, I do things the right way. I keep things, honest. I'm unbiased and all of that stuff. But it got to a point where I said, you know what? That's not the space I want to be in. I want to be someone who inspires people, from a, from a, I don't want to say, from almost that fine line between personal and professional, but not personal when it comes to your relationships, your finances and all of that stuff. I want to be there to help people with like elevating their career, their professional, their professional journey, their, even in some cases, their academic journey. I've discovered and realized that's the field I wanted to be in. So I went from once upon a time wanting to be a poet behind the mic, sharing poetry and elevating people's mental and emotional well-being, to wanting to be a life coach, connecting with people, learning about how I can coach people through their circumstances, to then later on wanting to be a motivational speaker, getting up in front of people who are going through difficult challenges and all that stuff, to now, as of today, well, not as of today, but as of probably, I say maybe a little less than a month ago, wanting to do workforce development. So we see our passion, our passion changes as we experience and see new things, but our purpose is always going to be the same. And that's sometimes why we go through this sort of rejection, because our purpose is already supplanted. God has already told us what our purpose is. And when we hit a roadblock or a dead end, because we're because things, we don't see execution, we don't see things working the way we want it to, it's because we're not going down the road of our purpose. We're just following our passion and following what makes us feel good about, what we've seen and what we heard. And am I saying that workforce development is my purpose? That remains to be seen. But that's something that I want to stress to you is appreciate the journey and appreciate each road that you go down on path of finding your purpose in whatever it is that you're trying to share or what you're trying to do. Because our gifts are not belongings. They were meant to be given to others. And this was something that someone shared with me and my wife about, I want to say, 4 months ago, I think. Um, we were somewhere. I think we were at a dealership because we just wanted to kind of like explore and see if, you know, we wanted a new car or whatever. And thank God I didn't get a new car. But I met this guy at the dealership and he said, he told us that our gifts were given to us to give to others, not given to us to keep. And that's something that stuck with me for a while, because I think I've heard something similar like that, but I heard it so long ago that I wasn't in this space with my platform or my content and all of that stuff, that I was, kind of like of the mindset that, yeah, I'll just share it and, I'll get likes, I'll get views, I'll get downloads. Whereas now I want to have impact. I want to, have purpose. I'm trying to find that purpose. And so what I want you to walk away from this saying or realizing and recognizing, especially if you're an entrepreneur, a creator, um, business on whatever the case may be, know that when we share our gifts, they do not have to be received the same way we receive them. If you're on stage, like when I shared with you about me being at that workshop and that woman in the front seat falling asleep, that could have meant one or two things. That could have meant God telling me your message just needs to be refined, or it could just mean that that woman don't that lady is not the end all be all and not the subject of what my purpose is. Not all people in the room are going to receive your message the same way you got it. If one person receives it the way you received it, then you're doing your job. But some people may pick up pieces of what you shared, and that's okay too. Some people may not pick up anything of what you said, but not all messages that you have or all ideas, thoughts, creations, and products that you have are meant for every single individual in this world. And sometimes you got to go through rejection and denial and, irresponsiveness, or, people just kind of like not people just brushing you off for you to find your purpose. And resilience is the key as well. And me believing in my content is what kept me resilient. Believing in the work that I've put in, the message that God has given me to share with you all. So, with that being said, I feel like that's my segue to go into spiritual relief, because God gave me another message to share, and it comes from Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 22. And it reads, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.'" What that verse says to me, especially in regards to what I shared with you today, is when you do the work of God, you don't have to question if God is seeing you or hearing you. And sometimes, like I was saying earlier, I kept trying to go in these different rooms, in these different spaces, trying these different means and methods of sharing my message and inspiration. And God kept telling me, that's not where I sent you. That wasn't where I assigned you. I actually had one called You've Been Reassigned, a podcast that I created years ago called You've Been Reassigned. And that's what continues to happen until I find the purpose that God has given me. God could be telling me, again, right now I'm on this workforce development fix. I could be here telling you next month or in a couple of months, I'm now doing something different. But we chase our passion, or no, we chase our purpose carrying our passion. But sometimes you can't let your passion mask you from what your purpose is. I'm still in the process of trying to find my purpose. And who knows, workforce development could be that. It could be something totally different. This thing has changed so many times for me. I've kind of grown numb to, I don't even know if numb is the right word, because I'm not like, I'm not like emotionally or mentally paralyzed or anything like that. But I've grown accustomed and okay with this journey where it's at. Because one thing that I know God has given me is I know He's given me a gift and a purpose. I just have to keep seeking that and finding out what that is. So my spiritual relief segment is brought to you by my devotional, Embracing Your Role in the Kingdom. It talks about our God-given duties and our responsibilities as servants in the kingdom to serve one another and what that looks like. So be sure to pick up a copy of Embracing Your Role in the Kingdom. Visit my website, deepdiscussion.org, and scroll down to this section where I have my 4 books, which is the devotional. I have my Black History Every Month poetry journal. I have my Vantage Experience self-coaching and reflection guide. And it's one other one that, and my Mastering Life, the essential life skills for everyday life, or essential skills for everyday life. So be sure to visit deepdiscussion.org and pick up your copies today. Now we're going to transition over to a little bit of fun. It's a little bit off topic. Well, that's what frivolous means, right? Frivolous 5. So I'm going to share with you today my top 5 things that I like to collect. Now, what I want you to do going forward as listeners, viewers, and subscribers is to submit your ideas of what you want me or my guests to share their top 5 of. Typically, I'll put this on the spot of the guests when I have guests on, but since I'm doing the solo today, I decided to pick the topic for myself. But going forward, send me, and when you send me that, you can send me what your top 5 of whatever you send as well. So if you say my top 5 Bible verses are, and you list them, and then I'll give you what my top 5 are. So we're going to go into my top 5 things to collect. And for me, the first one is hats. I love collecting hats. I probably got probably 60 or 70 hats. And I remember a couple years ago, my sister said, "Don't you have enough hats?" And I was like, there's not a such thing, or there's not such a thing. My other favorite thing to collect is Packers memorabilia. Many of you know, if not all of you know, I'm a diehard Green Bay Packers fan. Yes, I was heartbroken a little bit less than a month ago when we got eliminated, but that's okay. Go Pack, go. I love collecting watches. I know they got all these smart watches and stuff out, but hey, I still love a nice looking timepiece. Football cards. I used to collect basketball cards too, but I recently told my brother, yeah, you could take over the basketball card collection because football is where it's at. And lastly, you all know I love to write poetry. So I collect all of the poetry that I've written since I've been writing poetry since I was in middle school, but since I actually started collecting and keeping poetry, I probably since my senior year of high school. I've always liked to write poetry. So yeah, that's my frivolous 5. My top 5 things to collect: hats, Packers memorabilia, watches, football cards, and poetry. So I'm on all major social media sites: Instagram, Facebook. Not on X as much, but I do have a site on there as well. And so feel free to share me your frivolous 5 of your top 5 things to collect, or you can share it on YouTube if you're on a YouTube video, and share some suggestions of what you like me to share going forward, or when I have a guest on. I do have a few guests lined up, so stay tuned for that. And if you're a business owner that wants to connect, that wants to either be a guest on the podcast or in some way, shape, or form collaborate on a project where I get an opportunity to help work with your staff, with your clients in any way, shape, or form as it pertains to workforce development, resilience training, leadership development, workplace resilience, all of that stuff. Again, I just recently released and created a curriculum. It comes in the form of either 6 weeks or 12 weeks. And I also have 6 workshops that each has individual themes, methods, and messages to them. So if you're someone looking to build up your workforce or your staff, you're looking to encourage and inspire, a classroom, students, or whatever the case may be, let's find a way to connect and see how I can help elevate the morale, the confidence, and the work ethic of your staff, and the recipients of the workshops. And lastly, please visit my workshop, deepdiscussion.org. I have a scholarship that I'm actually going to be giving away in the next 2 months. So if you want to support Deep Discussions, 2 scholarships we have one called the Bridge to Greatness, which is going to be awarded to someone who shares an inspirational story of their battle with adversity in pursuit of their goals and ambitions. That could be, in your pursuit or your goal and ambitions of getting into college. I was once a college student, had my deal with adversity, and it's a story that inspired me and that I look back on and saw the value in it. So it, helped me, reward someone with a scholarship who not only overcame a battle that they had in their pursuit to their journey or in their pursuit to their goal, but help me continue to encourage them and keep them motivated and inspired to move forward. And the second one is, it's with my love of poetry. I'm a creator. I'm not the most artistic or the most musically sound, but I am good with a pen and a piece of paper, and I do love to write poetry. So, but this is to anyone with a creative background or with a gift of any kind of art, whether it's drawing, painting, writing, music, whatever the case may be. It's to a liberal arts major, and I'm awarding them a scholarship as well. So those are the two scholarships that I'm planning to give away. And if you would like to support, visit my website, deepdiscussion.org, and go to the scholarship section and to learn more, and feel free to support that campaign if you're able to. Thanks as always for supporting Deep Discussion's mission to transform adversity into opportunity. It is a wonderful gift and pleasure that God has given me, and I'm so incredibly thankful for your support. And if you, again, would like to be a guest or would like to collaborate and connect in any way, shape, or form, I can be reached via email at thriveforward@deepdiscussion.org, or you can contact me via phone 443-744-5406. Thank you so much for your continued support. Take care, and until we connect, stay inquisitive, stay inspired, and continue to keep God at the center of all that you say and do. Take care.